Hi, my name is Matt Wasnes, and today for my Technology and Society class, I'm going to discuss the question of would a carbon tax slow global warming? In the society we live in today, one of the most discussed topics that come up in debate is global warming. People ask whether or not it is a real concern or not, and if it is a real concern, what measures could be taken to solve the issue. A United Nations report from 2018 shows that climate change is happening a lot faster than scientists originally predicted, and measures need to be taken. One of the proposed ideas of the topic of global warming was the possibility of implementing a carbon tax to slow down these effects of climate change. In this presentation, I will discuss what a carbon tax actually is and its purpose, the advantages and disadvantages of a carbon tax, and lastly, to wrap it up, my opinion on the issue itself. First, what actually is a carbon tax? A carbon tax is a fee that a government imposes on any company that burns fossil fuels. The most widely discussed are coal, gasoline, and natural gas. When those fossil fuels are burned, they produce greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide and methane, that are released into the air, heating up the atmosphere, causing ground-level ozone and acid rain. Carbon tax is one of two major market-based options to lower emissions, the other being cap-and-trade schemes. While cap-and-trade schemes have seemed to have won over most politicians, many economists and consumers prefer carbon tax for its simplicity and impartiality. How the tax works is by levying a fee on the production, distribution, or use of fossil fuel based on how much carbon their combustion emits. Then the government sets a price per ton on carbon, then translates it into a tax on electricity, natural gas, or oil. Because the tax makes using dirty fuels more expensive, it encourages utilities, businesses, and individuals to reduce consumption and increase energy efficiency. In conclusion, the purpose of a carbon tax is to reflect the true cost of burning carbon. Those costs are borne by those who suffer from the effects, such as homeowners, farmers, and the government. Carbon taxes make sure companies and consumers pay for external costs they impose on a society. Next in the presentation, I would like to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of having a carbon tax. First, for the advantages, by increasing the cost of carbon-based fuels, then companies may be motivated to switch to clean energy such as solar, wind, and hydro-powered sources. Easier said than done, but by resorting to cleaner energy that would be much cleaner for the air. Second, a carbon tax can have a positive effect on the local economy. For example, Sweden implemented a carbon tax that reduced emissions by 23% in the past 25 years, and during that same period, the economy grew by 55%. Lastly, a carbon tax could provide double dividends. Individuals that support the idea of a carbon tax believe it offers potential benefits by creating return to households in the form of tax credit. And another benefit is reduction of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. More jobs, better education opportunities, and stronger infrastructure, creating more availability for public goods. Now for disadvantages. The first disadvantage is that a carbon tax is regressive, meaning by making fossil fuels more expensive, it can put a burden on those with low incomes. They will have to pay a higher percentage of their income for necessities, like gasoline and electricity. Another disadvantage is that almost everyone in the world uses carbon-based fuels exclusively. Whether choosing to fill up gas at a gas station or turning the heat on in your home, there is a very good chance you'll be consuming carbon-based fuel. There was even a 2018 proposal for a carbon tax in the state of Washington that failed to receive voter approval that would have raised the average cost of goods sold for consumers by over $400. Next, it takes too much time for businesses and consumers to approve of the tax. For example, in British Columbia, a carbon tax has been implemented for 10 years and still doesn't have a majority support to this day. Lastly, there is an administration cost to consider with carbon tax. Even though a carbon tax offers the potential of billions in new dollars or local currency each year, it will cost millions to collect it. The overall goal of a carbon tax is more about meeting targeted greenhouse emission goals or punishing those who use too much of the fuel rather than raising funds. When the cost of competing with imports are included in these collection costs, some of the positive effects are nearly negated. In conclusion, for me, I believe having a carbon tax presents a good idea to the conflict of global warming by burning fossil fuels. A lot of resources would be conserved through wind, hydro, and solar energy, and a much cleaner environment would be created. The problem lies within a majority of the world's resources are carbon-based fuels exclusively. The amount of time that would be needed for everyone to switch to those cleaner methods of energy takes too much time for it to make immediate impact. Lastly, I don't believe everyone would be eager to hop on gas and electricity prices being significantly increased. We use those resources daily, and a price hike wouldn't be economical for the world as a whole. So to wrap it all up, the idea of a carbon tax is nice and paints a nice picture in someone's head, but I believe with the price hike and the time for everything to switch sources of energy, it doesn't seem like an easy solution.